Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited to chat with you here today. And if you're watching me on YouTube, hi, how are you? I know you're admiring the fancy earrings I've got going. I had somebody send these to me. Thank you, Clara, for those. And they make me feel fancy. So there you have it. Hey, we're going to talk about a really fun topic today where I'm going to challenge you with the question of why you're working for free or why you're working for way less than what you need to be. And this podcast topic comes on the heels of the fact that this week I have rolled out a 5-day challenge that we're doing next week on boosting your business. It's in particular for people whose businesses have felt stuck, like their income is kind of flatlined, like they see other people in their industry really just killing it and they're like, what is wrong with me? And so if you haven't joined that yet, go join it. It's at jenniferallwood.com/boost. But when I did a Facebook Live this week to promote it, which by the way, if you're in business and not using Facebook Lives, IGTVs and Instagram stories for promotion, you're missing the whole point. Like use those things as a way to build relationship and then leverage that platform, the video part of that, to sell to the people that you've built relationships with. This is what business is called. And so I got 2 comments on here that I thought were fascinating. And I want to address these. Okay. So there was a woman named Andrea. And she said, my husband and children keep telling me, Mom, you need to try and sell some of the things you make, but I never do. And the second comment says that I wanted to address is I could create things all day long, but when it comes to putting a price tag on it, that's a big roadblock for me. So these are the people that this podcast is for today, because I want to dive into the different reasons that you are either doing free or you're not charging enough. And I want you to know that there's zero shame involved in this, okay? When I first started in my painting business, back in the year 2000, I did several things for free in the beginning. I did several things at way too cheap in the beginning, because the truth is when you're just starting, like you don't know what you don't know, right? And I used to tell people the same thing that I'm sure you yourself have heard, which is, charge what you're worth. Well, in the beginning, honestly, you can't charge what your talent is worth because you're testing the waters. And you're trying to determine if this is going to be something that's successful. And you don't have like this history that allows you to charge the same as a person who's been doing it for 10 years. Like there's almost like, there's a cost of admission into business, which isn't being able to make this same amount of money usually right in the initial beginning up front as what other people are. So I get that. But this is something different. This is people who have a talent that they know they could be charging for, or people keep telling them, why don't you charge for that? And they won't. Like, I want to get to the bottom of that, because the truth is, there are people listening to this podcast right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, yes, the dogs are present. God bless. They just started to wrestle. Sometimes these dogs remind me of my teenage boys. But I came up with 4 major reasons that I see in terms of why people do free or not charging enough. And the first one I want to talk about is the spirit of manipulation. So if you're familiar with the Bible talks about manipulation being a form of witchcraft, by the way. So we got to be really careful that we don't partner with manipulation, that we also don't operate in a manipulative way. So here's what I know from personal experience can sometimes happen. And this is what happened to me early on in my painting business. I gave into a spirit of manipulation because I didn't understand. And I had just started and I wanted the work, and I was naive, and I was being promised, magazines and television and so much publicity and so much work for Chiefs players and all the things. And by the way, we did work for several Chiefs players, so that was really cool if you're a Chiefs fan. But in the beginning, I was really naive, and I was also really hungry. And so when there were some people in the industry who were saying essentially, if you will, there were a couple instances where I was asked to like gold leaf this entire basement for somebody, like we'll make sure, and we send all these, people your way. If you will paint this piece of furniture, we'll make sure it hits a magazine. If you will do this for next to nothing, you don't have to pay me a commission on this job, but they got the way better end of the deal. Like I was upside down many times in terms of I was either working for free or close to free. And it was simply because I was being manipulated, but I didn't know what to do about it because I'm like, gosh, I need the work. I need to get my name out there. I need to, whatever the things that they were promising, whether it was the publicity or whether it was, more work, whatever, those were all things that I wanted. So some of you may be working right now because you've simply given in to that spirit of manipulation. And perhaps you didn't even realize that you were being manipulated. Now, do I think that there are honestly sometimes when it is worth it to do some things for free? Absolutely. I've done tons of things for free for giveaways, charities, school events. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about years of you having a talent that God gave you that you could be charging with, that you're not comfortable with, that you don't ever charge. And these are some of the reasons why. So number one is you could be in an extended period where you originally just gave into that spirit of manipulation. You don't know now how to start charging. Number two reason, you struggle possibly with knowing that you or your talent are worthy of dollars. It's fascinating to me how many women will give me it's just a speech. I'm just a seamstress. I'm just a crafter. I'm just a wreath maker. I'm just a jewelry maker. I'm just a painter. I'm just a decorator. I'm just a designer. And it's fascinating because you never hear somebody say, I'm just a plumber. I'm just a truck driver. I'm just a doctor. I'm just an astronaut. Like, I find that female creatives are some of the worst at using the just a excuse. And I need for you to understand that you've got to dig really, really deep when you're working for free. And this is why. When you're working for free because you're just not sure that your talent is worthy or you're feeling like you're not worthy of actually getting dollars, there's a root there. There is something that has been planted inside of you. Perhaps you think money bad, poverty good. Perhaps you think wealthy bad, poor good. Perhaps you think, this talent not equal to this talent. Perhaps you see things kind of in a hierarchy of which talents are more important than others. I have forever said, though, that if you're a creative, and by the way, this whole podcast is not dedicated to creatives, but I am talking to you right now. But if you are a creative, listen, God could have made you any old thing that he wanted to. He could have said, you know what? I'm going to give you, my friend, the mind of a scientist, or I'm going to give you the mind of an accountant, or I'm going to give you the mind of, whatever. Instead, he gave you the mind of a creative, and he makes no mistakes. And I think that sometimes we look at everybody else's talents and we think, well, those are worthy of a full-time salary. Those are worthy of charging. But yet here I am again, painting a third piece of furniture for my cousin's neighbor's sister's brother because I don't know how to say no for free. I don't even know if you followed that. I didn't even follow that. The point is, there has to come a place within yourself where you know that where your talent came from and it came from the Lord, and that you believe that he gives good gifts, and you believe that sometimes he gives us those gifts so that we can make a living and support ourselves, and that we believe with everything in us that those gifts are worthy of a price tag. And we're going to talk about that a little more in just a second. But that's number two reason why people do free or close to it. Number three, perhaps you've been convinced somewhere along the way that you feel like nice Christian girls don't charge for the gifts that God gave them. Oh, Lordy, this one is like a killer to me, because in the book of Deuteronomy, and I think it's Deuteronomy 8:18 if you want to check me, but it says God gives us the wisdom to get wealth. And I don't think he's talking about wealth in the terms of like buying a home in Fiji and a private plane, although I don't think those things are bad, by the way. Let's not shame people that have money. But he gives us gifts so that we can just make a living for ourselves, so that we can support our family. I want you to go read the book of Proverbs. Even for those of you who listen to me and you're like, Jen, I wish you'd just leave the Jesus part out. Listen, just go to Google and type in Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31 woman, I'll go even ahead and say she was a hustler. She had lots of things going on. She sold garments. She invested in vineyards. She was a huge support to her husband. It talks about work many more times in the book of Proverbs than it does about the fact that she was married and that she was a mother. It talks about work. And so I want you to know that work is not a bad thing, and making money for work is not a bad thing. Also, let's say that you are a good Christian girl who, you feel a little weird about charging. Let me ask you this. If you were to make more, couldn't you give more? It's hard to tithe off of zero, my friends. Can I get an amen from the back of the room? It's hard to tithe off nothing. I saw this quote from Grant Cardone once that said, money doesn't buy happiness, but poverty doesn't buy anything. And I've always remembered that. I put that in my book, And Fear is Not the Boss of You also. Money doesn't buy happiness, but poverty doesn't buy anything. And I was like, wow, that is so eye-opening. When you think about like all the good things that if you are a, air quote, good Christian woman, what could you do with that money? Like the adoption of Ari was not free. I don't know if you know anything about the adoption process. Maybe you listened to my podcast last week, but that adoption was not free. We had attorneys to pay for. We had doctors to pay for. Like, how do you think the world goes around? People that love Jesus have got to have some money. If they're going to tithe, if they're going to give to orphanages, if they're going to build schools in other countries, if they are going to adopt, if they're going to help their church keep the lights on, if they're going to give to causes that they know and love. That one of the biggest giving check, not one of the biggest giving check Jason and I write every single year is to an organization to help get women and children out of sex trafficking. We could not write that check if I did not charge for my work. And so if you're listening to me right now and you have felt like, gosh, God gave me this gift, I shouldn't charge for it. Listen, dig deep on where you came up with that. I want to make sure that you check your theology against the Word of God. And that it's not just you feeling, weird about how do I come up with a price? And I've always done it for my sister for free. And now how do I charge? Like there's a lot more dynamics. And I want you to dig really deep on that. The last reason that I think sometimes we struggle with doing things for free or not charging enough is because we just struggle with money in general. We just struggle with money in general. Why is money such a hard thing for us to talk about, especially in the church? Do you know how many times the Bible mentions the word money? It is the most talked about topic, I believe, in the Bible. If you want me to look up the number for you, I can. Or if you want to look it up and just screenshot this podcast, tag me on it on Instagram, let me know what you found. But I think there's different reasons we struggle with money. And a lot of it comes from our childhood. And by the way, I've had to do, and nothing against my parents, but I've had to do lots of counseling to get over some deep-seated viewpoints that I had about money. And, the thing is, when I was raised in the 70s, it was a different conversation than what we're able to have today. Things were more hidden than they are now. And so I want you to know that if you find money discussions really uncomfortable, look, I get it. I totally get it. But here are some of the struggles that I see women, especially my age women, 25-ish, give or take a few years, struggling with. Number one, they wonder if they were to get money, if they can handle it. Can they handle it or will they lose it all? There's other people that wonder, do I actually deserve it? Will it change who I am? My mentor, Stu McLaren, I love that he says, if you were a jerk before money, you'll be a jerk after money. If you were a wonderful person before money, you'll be a wonderful person after getting money. And I'm like, isn't that so true? Money just kind of shines a light on who you already are. I think there's so many people who worry about it changing them. Hopefully it'll change you for the better. There's other people who are worried about, will it change how other people respond to me? And you know what? It absolutely may. Because again, money kind of shows who we are and what we hold true and what we value. And so it will change the way people respond to you. It will. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. You are able to handle hard conversations. You are able to handle hard situations. You are able to not have to be around toxic people. You are able to walk away from relationships that are not healthy. There's a whole gamut of things, of ways you can respond to people who may not respond well to you suddenly having money. A lot of people struggle with finances because conversations are tense. Money conversations, even inside of the home, are tense. maybe when you were being raised, like either nobody talked about money, or whenever money was talked about, it was that there was never enough, and we're always going to be broke. Maybe a million times as a child, you were told we can't afford it. That if you don't think that that doesn't carry over into adulthood, you are so wrong. And if you are currently doing that to your kids, I plead with you to stop. There are so many different ways that you can say we can't afford it. You can say, you know what, we're going to make different choices with our finances for this month. Or this month, we're going to choose not to spend things on that, but maybe next. Or we are going to delay, purchasing that right now, but maybe down the road. But continually telling your kids, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, will affect how they deal with money as an adult. So if you are somebody that already struggles with money conversations, help your kiddos out by being really careful with your own words. Last thing, when it comes to struggling with money conversations, there's a lot of people I coach who say that they want more money, but the decisions that they make are not in alignment with that. I can see that they self-sabotage. I can see that when they get to a certain point, they wig out and quit. I can see that they say that they want more, but when they have the opportunity to kind of level up in their business, they don't. And usually it's out of fear. It's for those people in particular that I'm doing the challenge that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast. I'm doing the challenge for next week. It's for people whose businesses are stuck. Your business is not doing what you want it to. You see other people in your industry just really kicking it and you are not, and you wonder, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing a challenge for you next week. You can go to jenniferallwood.com/boost. We opened it this morning. We've already had hundreds of people sign up, which I'm so excited about. Now listen, I'm going to tell you two really important things that I want you to pay really close attention to, okay? Number one, the challenge is not free. And the reason it's not free is because I just got done talking to you about why we don't do free. And in order for me to stay in complete integrity, I have to practice what I preach. And I've been preaching for years for you guys to charge something, to stop giving it all away, that it's okay to put food on the table for your own family and to use the gifts that God gave you to do that. And so I have to walk that walk. So the challenge is $10. It is a whopping $10, my friends. You can skip Starbucks this week and join us on the challenge. Go to jenniferallwood.com/boost. But there's, a lot that my team is doing for this challenge in terms of, I will be live next week, all 5 days, talking about 5 different reasons that your business is possibly not making more money. And here's the really fun part of this 5-day deep dive with you guys. There are so many business coaches that focus on technical things that you can measure, different ways that you can grow your bottom line with business strategy. And there's definitely a place for that. And thank goodness that those people make those courses, because I have taken them and they have, served me very, very well. But I have, I believe, a very different position on this earth. And the different position where I feel like God has given me favor is that I know that we as human beings, we are not just one dimensional. We are mind, body, and soul. That's what the Bible says. And so there, when it comes to like, why is your business stuck? It may not be because you don't know enough about business. It may not be because you don't understand how to set up your email list. It may not be because you're not a very good salesman. There may be some heart and soul things. There may be some spiritual roots. There may be some wrong mindsets that we really need to get to the bottom of in order for your business to level up, because all the strategy in the world can't fix that. Does that make sense? All of the sexy strategy in the world cannot fix what only God can touch in someone's heart and heal. And so join us if that's you next week in my challenge. Here's the last cool thing that I really want to tell you. So when we were setting this challenge up and we're like, yep, it's going to be $10. And I was talking to my team about where I feel like I am really growing right now and where I feel like God is really blessing me and where I feel like I can most be used by the kingdom is where I am in an arena where I have the ability to pray and prophesy and really lean into the gifts that God has given me. And help to try to help you in your business by using the gift of prayer. And so when you go check out at jenniferallwood.com/boost, you're going to have the option of doing something we're calling the War Room. And this is based on the movie The War Room, the prayer room, essentially is what it is. And it's an upgrade on the challenge. And it's going to be time of prayer, of a deeper dive with me, but just more prayer daily and really focusing on that piece of the puzzle in your business. And so, man, if you're feeling froggy, do that part with me because I am super excited about the War Room. So I hope that I will see you in there next week. And here's one of the things that I would make an ask. If you listen to this podcast all the way through and you're not in business, like, first of all, you're amazing. And every once in a while, I'll have a sweet new mama tell me that she listens to my podcast because the sound of my voice puts her baby to sleep. I'm like, that is both terrifying and amazing. Thank you for that. So if you just sat through this whole thing and you're like, I don't even have a biz, that's okay. Will you forward this to someone you know who does? Will you forward this podcast episode? If you're like, I want to do this, but I'm ready. I'm really ready to make more money and for this not to just be a hobby, for business to actually like go up instead of down. Because by the way, there are 3 months left of 2020. And if you have already thrown the whole year out the window, sis, we have the most profitable quarter of the whole year coming up in just a couple days. Like, get ready for some breakthrough. That's what this entire challenge is for. So do me a solid and grab a girlfriend who's in business also. Send this podcast episode to somebody that you know who's trying to work her boutique or her dog walking business or her real estate business or her earring making or her hair extension or sign making or gift wrapping or whatever. If you are in the business space and trying to make money online, this challenge would be for you. So grab a friend, go to jenniferallwood.com/boost. I cannot wait to see you in there on Monday morning. No, there are no particular times that you have to show up. The recordings will be available to you. So even if you're working a day job, still get in there so we can get you out of that thing. Okie dokie. All right. We'll see you guys Monday. Bye-bye.